me.
If you ask me point blankly what I think were the best years to be an otaku, I would have to say the mid to late 90s. It was during this time that the creative forces behind anime began pulling themselves out of the ultra-violence aesthetic and began pushing themselves to create stories that would stand the test of time. By far and away, the most recognizable and most loved anime came out of this era. It was truly a renaissance, one that we haven't seen before or since. This was also during the time when anime started to crawl itself out of the dark corners of Blockbuster Video and start premiering on television, which was how a lot of us saw anime for the first time. And it's also how a lot of us saw Roujin-Z for the first time. Created in 1991, brought over to the States in 1994, Roujin-Z is the other well-known film of Katsuhiro Otomo's. In fact, that was how the film was marketed here in the States. Plastered on its VHS box the words, "From the creator of Akira," lured would-be buyers into purchase, assuring them that it's at least as good as Akira.
And then you accidentally ran across a group of clowns, they attacked, and you had no choice but to defend yourselves?
Then again, there's no honor in bragging over hitting a low target. To be fair, Roujin-Z has the advantage over Akira in that it's an original work and doesn't have to be constrained by any source material. And at barely 75 minutes long, the story isn't nearly as dragged out and lengthy as Akira either. However, Roujin-Z isn't nearly as technically impressive or groundbreaking as Akira was. Or as memorable, for that matter. As much as I've ragged on Akira being an outright mess of a story, I would never dream of diminishing what it did for the anime industry. There still isn't an anime that can match it for its technical achievements in animation. Roujin-Z is a very well-animated film, don't get me wrong, but it just doesn't measure up. What I'm saying is, without the pedigree that Akira has, Roujin-Z is pretty much meh. The movie begins on a dignified note.
Haruko! I just wet my bed!
Sure, peeing your bed isn't the most graceful admission in the world, but what you all couldn't see was that he was saying it while wearing a monocle. We immediately jump into the plot as Grandpa Wedbetter is abducted by some shady-looking G-men, saying that he's been selected to participate in a revolutionary new automated system to take care of the elderly, or as they refer to them behind closed doors, a drain on society. But guys, without old people, who will teach the kids how to play rummy? And who will keep Werther's Originals in business? Grandpa Wedbetter is barely there as it is and provides very little resistance as he's being carted out. The only one in his life that gives a rip about him, it seems, is his caretaker nurse. The next day, she receives word that both Grandpa Wedbetter and the system he's been volunteered for are being presented at her local college.
May I welcome you to this demonstration which marks a breakthrough in public care for the elderly. You may not believe this, but we'll all be old one of these days. We'll all be agedly challenged, or ached, as we call it.
We'll all grow old? Cyanide Caplet, save me now!
The flashing red light indicates that the ache is in the process of urinating. A continuous red, yes, there we are, indicates poo-poo.
Poo-poos? Quit using your technobabble!
And television are included in the design package with access to sports, financial news, and adult channels.
Sir, question. Can this fabulous new technology be used by the general public and we'll just throw all the old people into the furnace?
A question, please. You haven't told us what the machinery's powered by.
Good question. By a built-in atomic power reactor.
In that case, isn't there a risk of a radiation leak?
Negative. But if such a thing should happen, then an automatic safety device seals off the complete package with a blanket of concrete.
I think by now you're starting to pick up a big problem with Roujin-Z. The lack of subtlety. True, this movie is supposed to be a satire, pointing an accusatory finger at Japanese society and how it treats its elderly, and again, the film could be construed as a critique of the Japanese rebellious youth in the 80s, and a call for a return to traditional values. But there's absolutely no sense of restraint, so the satire comes off less a critique and more a talking down lecture. The audience isn't nearly as dumb as you think it is, movie. Get off your high horse and tell your story.
But think of my career. If I waste my youth in looking after my father and mother, how will I make it to the top notch in the career pile?
Geez, what a selfish asshole.
Yeah, but I am honest at least, yeah?
No, kid, you're an asshole. And that's not just me saying that.
So, how is that vital demonstration?
Hey,
Terrific,
asshole.
unmissable? The best way to handle it is to ignore it.
You're such an asshole.
We're just wasting our time.
You're such an asshole.
Welcome to the Asshole Club, kid. Your Audi is waiting for you. Using his bed, Grandpa Wedbetter sends an electronic message to his nurse, who tries to save him from his prison, but she's quickly found out. She discovers that he's been locked in the bed via wires connected to his body, and pulling him out means possibly killing him. However, her mere presence causes Grandpa Wedbetter to take control of the bed and wheel itself out and make their daring escape. Of course, leaving the asshole to fend for himself.
Open up! Don't do this to me! I'm a talented person! Don't leave me! Now, you asshole.
I was about to say something like, look who's talking, but nope, you're entirely within the right. Their escape isn't for long, it seems, as the police has been cornered at Grandpa Wedbetter's house.
How can anyone get a night's rest with all this noise?
There's a gang of kidnappers holed up in this house.
He brought them here, the asshole.
Okay, I think you're starting to overdo it now. Besides, that's more of a douchebag thing to do. The G-Men manage to reclaim the bed and Grandpa Wedbetter, but things take a turn for the conspiratorial as it's revealed that the bug in the system was planted by this shitstain on behest of the Defense Department. That's right, they're turning the computer inside the nursing bed into a weapon. I could go on about how this is the dumbest possible plan they could have gone with, but really it all boils down to this question. If you were always going to do this, why let the health department publicly announce its existence? All that does is make people aware that there's this revolutionary home healthcare technology that just sort of disappeared. Sure, people have short attention spans, but there's no way they're going to let a bed that you could poop in slip by the radar. Anyways, Grandpa's nurse is moping about him being stuck inside the monster bed, but luckily she comes across an old geezer that just happens to be an expert hacker, and agrees to help find a way to contact Grandpa Wedbetter through his computer. Unluckily, they're having trouble figuring out how to get him to respond, but the nurse has an idea when she finds a picture of his dead wife.
Can the computer do a simulation of her voice? Can the computer do a simulation of her voice?
Excuse me for one bit. Can the computer replicate her voice from a photograph? The fuck are you talking about? Of course it can't!
Hello, Takazawa. Hello.
You're the reason why Apple's still in business. So, spitting in the face of science, the bedridden geriatric manages to crack the software on the bed and propels him out of the hospital and off to the beach. Along the way, the bed stops to absorb anything mechanical or electronic. This is where it starts looking like a Katsuhiro Otomo film.
Robot ahead.
Massive tendrils of electrical wires, mounds upon mounds of mechanical gears. That's Otomo's work, all right. It's not a far stretch to compare the bed from Roujin-Z to Tetsuo's out-of-control form in Akira, or even the machines and construction cancellation order in the short film omnibus Neo Tokyo, or Trapper Keeper. And just like with every other Otomo film, the authorities are powerless to stop it. But unlike his other films, Half of Roujin-Z are just scenes of the military trying to stop the bed and failing. Half the film! It gets to the point where you stop paying attention to the film and start biding your time by counting all the times Sony appears in the background. And good luck with that! Between the constant and pointless fights, the G-Men and the nurse are chasing after the bed. That's really the plot of the movie. Old man is interred in a bed, nurse tries to set him free, but winds up implanting the soul of the old man's dead wife in the bed by scanning a photograph of her into a computer, who in turn takes her husband out to the beach. Well, I guess I didn't need that part of my brain. Spatula. One of the G-Men finds his way onto the bed, where he has a heart-to-heart with the AI. They come to an understanding, as the bed will take itself back to the hospital after they spend some time at the beach. Of course, this peaceful resolution is lost on the shit-stain who sold them out before. You'd think they would have seen that coming.
This is the military version of Z001, which we developed in parallel with the civilian model. Alpha is programmed to follow my orders only.
What about Z001?
We have to take steps to see the public never finds out that it got out of control.
Shitstain, did you see what it did to a Plinko parlor? Yeah, too late for that, dickhole.
You bastard! Call off that mechanized Rottweiler right now! They're gonna go to the beach, as I promised them!
Take it easy, Tarada. You're gonna be an ache in a few years from now, so I wouldn't get on the wrong side of me.
Ah!
Yes! Somebody finally clocked that little turd! I haven't seen a more cathartic punch since Rocky V! So the military throws its weight around with its own robot and tries to stop the bed, but it's a give-and-take battle on through to the beach. Though the rest of the film looks spectacular, these are the hardest scenes to watch. The camera is way too close to the action, and the fluid animation confuses the viewer's attention. Half the time I have no idea what I'm looking at. It's like if Transformers were tinted yellow. In a genuinely touching scene, the bed lets go of Grandpa and tells the nurse to get him to the beach as it deals with a military robot. But it's absolute chaos, and the two bots wind up in a massive pile of electrical wires. It seems the only way for this to end is if the nurse manages to find the core of the military bot and destroy it. Which she does. Well, that was anticlimactic. Despite my many misgivings with the movie, I genuinely like the ending. Grandpa and the AI say their goodbyes to each other on the beach before the AI shuts down, and Grandpa passes out. It's a nice little falling action that puts a cap on the climax. Too bad it wasn't actually the end. Grandpa Wedbetter's cat comes out of nowhere and pulls out some part of the AI, and we end on the AI's new body, killing everyone.
To the warm, welcoming, eternal sea. Come, my love. Come.
Or maybe she didn't kill everyone. Either way, that was still a needlessly sinister line read. I guess when I get right down to it, my main problem with Roujin-Z, besides the out-of-nowhere ending, is that it lacks the gravitas of Otomo's other work. Yes, the film has all of his little touches here and there, the notions of man tampering with forces beyond his control, technology taking over nature, and the rebellious generation of Japan, and their corrupting of traditional Japanese values. But the film just doesn't know how to weave these themes into the story without bashing the audience over the head. Akira, despite all its flaws, is the superior film in this case, even though I technically like Roujin-Z better. It has its merits, it doesn't overstay its welcome, and the animation, save for the ending fight scene, is really impressive. It's goofy and dumb, yes, but it's mostly harmless in its goofiness and dumbness. Overall, it's not a good film, but it's also not a bad film. It's just sort of meh, like I said. You only need to see it once, and you never have to see it again, but you never think that you've wasted your time after you're done watching it. Well, February is upon us, and with that comes a curveball. It's not quite anime month here on Anime Abandoned, and we kick it off right with Spawn. Till next time.